Hi, I'm Brad Ross, a mining education advocate and co-director and founder of the Geotechnical Center of Excellence at the University of Arizona. Today, I'd like to talk about a mining education strategy that can help the mining industry be in more control of mining education. We all know that the mining industry has a problem in attracting enough people with the right skills, but that problem may be even bigger than we anticipated. We're having difficulty getting people in skilled areas such as geotechnical or tailings. Plus, how do we have the right skills for environmental and dealing with communities? Plus, we have a lot of new technologies that are coming out that we don't have the skills to implement. At the end of the day, we know that the world is changing and that the mining industry has to change with it with the right skills and the right capability and the right people. When it comes to education, we've found that in the United States, at least, education has become very expensive. If you can compare education from 1980 to today, the cost is in the United States is 3.5 times greater on a real-time basis. And at the same time, mining education in the United States has been shrinking. Today, there are only 600 or so mining engineering students in all of the United States. That higher cost that we talked about is one of the problems because frankly, one of the issues is that impacts students from economically depressed areas. Those often are areas where the mining companies work. It's also a fact that mining education is weighted really more to urban students. That's where the universities are located. But the mining industry needs people that want to live in rural areas often. And so that also reduces the number of people that want to come into mining. So at the end of the day, if we want to educate and attract more people, we need to look at new solutions and new approaches to mining education, finding ways that can make the education more affordable so that the content that we have is world class and that we can set professional standards, not just in mining engineering, but all areas of mining education. And we need to find ways to bridge those economic downturns because we know that every time that the mining industry goes into recession, mining education can go into a depression. So if the industry wants change and they want to change the direction of mining education, they're going to have to take more control. They're going to have to show the leadership that they're capable of and create a strategy. And at the end of the day, we need a mining institute to put it all together. One of the things that we do know is that economies of scales does make a difference. The larger mining education is, the more it can do. But to create economies of scale, it takes a strategy. And one of the best examples of having that strategy is China. In 1998, the strategy for mining education in the United States and China diverged. In the United States, Columbia University actually shut down their mining engineering department. That was their strategy. However, in China, that same year, the Ministry of Industry actually increased the focus on mining education because they knew that mining was going to be a critical part to supplying the materials needed for their economy. One of the areas that they focused on was metallurgical engineering, and the results have been impressive. Since that time, they sent people all around the world to learn about metallurgical engineering. And they've come back, and now 44 colleges and universities have metallurgical engineering. The number of students is impressive. They have between 3,500 and 4,000 undergraduates just in metallurgical engineering. In the last 5 years, they've graduated 6,500 masters and 1,500 PhD students, and they've focused on professional advancement. Of those masters and PhDs, 52% of them are professionals that are getting their continued education. Individual universities and programs in China can be really impressive. The Central South University School of Metallurgy and Environment has 1,650 full-time students. And just for metallurgical engineering, they have 60 full-time metallurgy faculty members. That's really impressive. Those large numbers of students give China an advantage for mining education. It gives them an economy of scale. Today, you can send a student to learn mining engineering in China from out of the country, and it will cost $142 per credit hour. That's very comparable to the $137 per credit hour that the United States used to have for mining education. But there are cases in this country where mining education can be cheap, efficient, and effective. One of those examples is the Geotechnical Center of Excellence at the University of Arizona. The Geotechnical Center of Excellence is different than most programs. First of all, it was designed and created by industry experts in 2018. It's industry funded, and all the employees have industry experience. Plus, they have an industry board of directors that sets the priorities that the center follows. As a result, the Geotechnical Center has a different motivation. It's really about how much training can we do, how low of cost. That's why the Geotechnical Center of Excellence focuses on professional development training. One of the things that the Geotech Center of Excellence has done is created 4 new classes. These classes, based on industry priorities, tackle topics that are critical for geotechnical professionals. Each of these classes has an equivalent content of approximately 3 college credits. The base cost is $899 per class, which is basically $300 per credit hour. And the quality of these classes are simply amazing. The courses that the Geotechnical Center of Excellence produce use a different model for education. It's basically a distributed education model. First of all, instead of trying to produce all the content themselves, they rely upon some of the top experts in the industry and academia to build one course. For the 4 courses that they built, there's been professionals from 60 different organizations that help contribute content. The Geotechnical Center of Excellence facilitates that process and engages all of those different groups to build really specific courses to the skills that are needed. Because of that, they've been able to deliver courses to over 232 different organizations. That gives the center economies of scale to keep the price down. And those courses are accessible. They're 100% online. You can take the course as a cohort or as an individual, and you can work at your self-pace. And so people can work at their schedule at their times. There's no admittance requirements and there's no prerequisites, but it covers all different areas. And people are able to actually interact with some of those professionals and those experts through question and answer panels. And they're subtitled, so we get past some of the language barriers. The results have been impressive. Over 1,900 people in the 3.5 years since the courses started have been registered in the courses. They come from over 45 different countries, and the courses are affordable, which also helps keep the numbers up. To show how affordable these courses are, even though the list price is $899, if you're a company that actually helped develop the courses, the center actually gives free registrations to help pay for the time that people spent on it. If you're a member of the Geotechnical Center of Excellence, you get discounts up to 30%, which lowers their price per hour. If you're a University of Arizona student or faculty member, you can take the class for free. If you're a student from a different university, you get a much lower price than the list price. As a result, the Geotechnical Center of Excellence, on average, charges $158 per credit hour, much lower than what the normal tuition is. And what's interesting is the first class that we built, the radar monitoring course, can be taken as a 4-credit course, but it will cost the same amount as what you would pay the university normally. As a result, the Geotechnical Center of Excellence has a list price of $300 per credit hour, but a realized cost of $158 per credit hour, which compares very favorably with China and the historic cost of mining education. So let's kind of summarize what's different about the Geotechnical Center of Excellence. First of all, their courses are prioritized by industry, and we make new content created by industry experts from around the world. Those are facilitated by industry professionals, and the access to those classes can be delivered to anyone, anywhere, at any time. So the Geotechnical Center of Excellence reaches those economies of scales, and they've done that with a very small staff in a relatively short period of time. So this is a new mining education model, a model that relies upon economies of scale for a lower price. Also ties that fundamental education to work experience. People can take those classes while they're working, and we know that if you tie in experience with education, that you get great results. This gives control to both companies and individuals on how they can learn and progress through their career. The Geotechnical Center of Excellence has focused on geotechnical issues in open pit mines. But there's so many more areas in the mining industry that needs additional education, needs additional capacities. Everything from operational issues, safety, environmental, communities, geoscience and exploration, business and decision making. All of these need additional education, additional capacities, and we could create centers and career paths for each one of these. And if we were able to do that, it fundamentally changes the mining industry. So the potential is massive, 20 plus different centers. And if you think about the Geotechnical Center of Excellence training 1,900 people in 3 years, I think the capacity is much greater than that. They could be training a couple thousand people per year. So now if you take those 20 centers times 2,000 people per year, we should be thinking about how do we educate 40,000 people per year. That is a foundational change to the industry, but it requires the industry to work together so that we can expand the market of how many people can take education and where it's taken at. To do that, we can learn from other industries like Amazon. One of the things that Amazon does so well is to connect any customer with any provider. Well, we could do the same thing with mining education. It shouldn't matter who the provider is if they have great content that meets the needs of the industry. We should have a platform that they can deliver that content to anybody, anywhere in the world. And that should be tied in with all the different training departments. It'll be one place that people know, whether an individual or an industry partner, where they can get that education. And at the end of the day, if you have that platform with all that content on one place, it can also be delivered to any academic institution as well. Because if it's low cost, it's high quality, every student should benefit from that. To do that, we need to make a global mining education institute focused strictly on mining education that's industry controlled, open to any provider, has a common catalog that anybody can use, and it can be a single tool for organizations and students to learn from. That would mean that we would need to use something that universities have, which is a learning management system. Universities have a method to connect any students with all of their teachers, and they do that with a program that can be supplied by a number of different companies, whether it's D2L, Brightspace, or Canvas, or Adobe, or whatever company or one program can deliver any mining content to anyone in the world. And by doing it at a large scale, it's relatively inexpensive per student. Another thing that the mining industry can do and should do that will help any institution that provides education is define the skills that are needed to be a professional in the mining industry for each of those different career paths. That definition should be global. It shouldn't be based upon any one country or any one company or any one institution. It should be industry experts that come together that define those skills. That will be a guide for any educational provider. It'll create a career path for any individual so that they know how they can succeed. It will also be part of a training plan for professionals that work in different companies. It can help us identify the gaps and where we need to fill them and what we need to do in the future. The mining industry has defined the skills that are needed. The next step is to develop a certification program. From there, we can look at Microsoft, who has done a fantastic job. They have a global certification program that certifies skills that are needed in their industry. At the end of the day, we can group those skills in for a professional certification that's based upon competency. So this is what Microsoft is doing. They have a program where they define their skills that are needed, and they provide classes where people can take those classes and they can get their certification. Those are such good programs that there are cases where universities accept their certificates for academic credit, and their scale is massive. Since they've started this program, they've actually kept the price down and they've trained 30 million people. That's an incredible number. And their cost is very inexpensive. They charge just over $30 per month to take any classes that they provide. What Microsoft has done is pretty incredible. Their cost is so low that you can achieve academic level credits at $30 per credit hour. That's what economies of scale does, because they can deliver to so many people high quality content. They can keep the cost down. That's something that we as an industry should be thinking about. How can we deliver at $30 per credit hour? Even if we get the cost of mining education down, there's still a problem. The mining industry has significant downturns that impacts mining education tremendously. We have to find a way to bridge those downturns, and there are methods, but it's going to take the mining industry working together. One of the ways to mitigate these downturns is to create an insurance fund that will be used during those downturns to prevent skills loss. We can build that fund by using a percentage of the revenue from each course as well as each certification. This needs to be a large fund, and we need to have it invested so that we don't lose because of inflation. And the way that we would use those funds is that if there's large layoffs, that we could provide free tuition to anybody that's impacted by those layoffs. We can also reduce tuition for anybody else that may be learning new skills that will be needed by the industry. The third thing we can do is use some of that to pay for the experts that are being laid off to build new courses. If we do that, we're basically investing in human resources during the downturns. We will be able to retain those existing skills and knowledge. We'll be able to increase capacity, and we'll be prepared for the upturns, which will make the industry a lot more efficient, effective, and profitable. The second thing we can do to mitigate these downturns is to create an industry advocacy for the academic side of the business. We need to protect those mining education assets. If you think about Columbia, when they closed the mining engineering program, mining education lost important assets as far as buildings, research areas, tenure positions, and those have an impact. We need to have an industry advocacy that can track the potential changes and represent the industry's point of view when there's changes being made. I know that there are many people in mining academics that are worried about an industry institute, but there are some serious advantages for academic organizations from this institute. First of all, they'll be focused on professional development. And when people start learning more about education, that will help funnel more people into academic programs as academic students. They'll also be able to put their training programs onto the same platform, and their programs, instead of reaching a few hundred people at the most, it will reach thousands. Mining academic institutions will also have access to affordable, world-class content at an affordable rate. And they'll be able to build on that content and add even more value to set themselves apart. And by having that content, it will address some of the critical faculty shortages that we have. Finally, they'll have a strong industry advocate when the times are difficult to help you succeed through those difficult times. At the end of the day, if we're going to have a large impact on mining education, it's going to take all the industry working together to build that global institute, to have affordable education, to have career paths for all their employees, and to make it more sustainable. We know that by having a more skilled and capable workforce, the results will change every part of our industry. But it takes the mining leaders to decide whether this is their priority or not. But it really starts with us. By working together, we can improve these concepts and ideas. We can share those ideas with a much larger group of people, and we can influence those leaders to make the decisions about an institute and how to address our skills shortages. Thank you for listening. I appreciate your time. I'm Brad Ross, a mining education advocate.